What is going on, fantasy people? It is your boy John with the catch, here to bring you a mock draft on the 1st of August, the official fantasy football season. If you have not been paying attention, it is time to start now. So, we've got a 12-man league going on here. I believe this was a either half PPR or PPR simulation. So, should be fun. I'm excited to get right into this. Looks like we've got one flex position, so a pretty standard roster here: quarterback, two receivers, two running backs, tight end, and a flex spot that includes a tight end. Not all leagues do this. The league I play in personally does. I think it's great. Kicker and defense as well. So for myself at this point, I am obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but personally, I'm going to be targeting a running back very, very early here. Let's see, I've got pick 8 overall. So I'm probably going to be eyeing Nick Chubb as well as Aaron Jones, unless someone like Zeke slips out of there. I would not be targeting Saquon Barkley this year. Just a little scared of those injuries, but I don't necessarily start a queue until like round 3 or 4. I can kind of evaluate what I need to just off of the top player board and by switching position as well. So pretty early here, we've got all the big names going: CMC, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, and Kamara. I would expect those to be the first 4 players off your board, regardless of what league you are in. Travis Kelce going number 5 overall. I have seen a lot of people taking Travis Kelce pretty early, but that's the earliest I've seen him. So we've got Chubb off the board, someone I just said I was targeting. Like I said, if Zeke slips out of there, that's going to be my guy. I do believe that the Cowboys are going to start off the year very explosive, but I like Aaron Jones, even his ranking being a little bit lower. I think as the season gets closer, now that we know that A-Rod is on that team, that Green Bay Packers team is going to be very, very good in the offensive side of things. So go ahead and take Zeke. I really like Jonathan Taylor too, but we don't know exactly how the Colts are going to be utilizing him, and I like him a little bit closer to pick 8 or 9, or excuse me, like pick 9 or 10. If Zeke wasn't there and Aaron Jones wasn't there, that's probably the next person I'm taking. So now we've got Saquon off the board, someone who I'm just hesitant about. I think that's starting to spread, as the season gets closer here. A lot of people just worried about that injury, and worried about how long is he going to be able to last you, as well as when is he going to play? Because there is some speculation that he will not be playing at least week 1, if not further. Continuing to see the running back position be selected, with Stephon Diggs going after Jonathan Taylor as the second receiver to be taken on top of Tyreek Hill. So for myself, I am still just strictly looking at running backs. Every now and then I might look at everyone who's available just to see if there's a name that really pops off. But for me, it's going to be a double running back to start my draft. That's kind of the strategy I'm sticking to here. And I will tell you the 3 guys I'm targeting right now: Najee Harris, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and David Montgomery as well. Really big on all 3 of these guys. I do think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have a better year than last year. A little disappointing with what he did last year. I really think that Najee Harris is a great number 2 running back to kind of help solidify the position behind a guy like Zeke. And let's see who went. Gibson, Ridley, and Adams, as well as Eckler. So little interesting to me that some of these guys are available. I am going to pick Najee Harris. I just love the upside with this selection. Like I said, I really like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I am a little worried that we are going to see maybe not a stud year out of him, but kind of that over 1,000 yards, maybe around 8 touchdowns. But let's see, we've got Calvin Ridley going before Devontae Adams in this mock draft, which I have not seen that happen yet. Devontae Adams seems to be the clear cut number three. You could argue number two. A lot of drafts he's going before Diggs, but expect to see Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and Devontae Adams being the three first receivers taken off the board, regardless of, in my opinion, regardless of scoring, whether you're playing standard or PPR. So we've got Patrick Mahomes off the board. Expect him to be the number one quarterback going off the board, but in my personal opinion, there's still some really good value at some of these other quarterbacks kind of slipping past him. When you're kind of eyeing Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray, those are the guys that if they're there with my fourth selection, I'm definitely going to take one of them. But definitely expect Patrick Mahomes to be the first quarterback off the board. Let's see. Couple receivers starting to go. I am definitely my top player, I'll tell you right now, has got to be David Montgomery. This is going to be, in any draft I'm doing, any mock draft, I'm just praying that he drops to my number three selection. Pairing him on top of someone like Zeke and someone with a lot of upside like Najee Harris is definitely ideal. Definitely going to be stacking the running back position, and for me, that starts with drafting three in a row. So we did see Edwards-Helaire go at 23. I would consider him, if he was available as well as Montgomery. But I'm very big on Montgomery going into this year. So definitely expect these receivers that are in the same tier, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Hopkins, Metcalf, McLaurin, and Allen to kind of just go right on top of each other. A lot of good value there. All very good football players. Darren Waller going a little bit later than I expected. I've seen him going pretty early, especially seeing Kelsey going number 5 overall. Now you're going to see maybe a little bit of a run on tight ends at this point. People get very, very scared once those big two names are off the board. We've got our boy Luke going ahead and grabbing George Kittle as well. Oh, and Josh Allen going second quarterback off the board. CeeDee Lamb, interesting. So, like I said, my main target would be David Montgomery. I'm going to go ahead and select him. So just think about that value right there with those first three selections. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, Najee Harris, and David Montgomery. I'm very, very happy with those selections. So for me personally, I'm going to start eyeing Lamar as well as Kyler Murray. If they do get selected, then I'm going to go ahead and opt to pick a receiver. Unless there is a running back sticking around that I am really feeling, but I don't know. I think most of those guys that I like might slide. So at this point, I'm also going to just start looking at tight ends, seeing if there's a big kind of team changer. And I do really like TJ Hawkinson. Got 6 picks. So this is where I start to kind of make my draft queue. I'll tell you, I am really big on Mike Evans and his scoring ability. If you're playing in a standard league, I would definitely have Mike Evans on your board as kind of your third or fourth, maybe even fifth player, depending on how big your league is. He is someone who is going to see a lot of red zone targets this year. Chris Carson is someone who, at this point, I would actually consider taking. We're seeing kind of a blend right now, running back and receiver, since Josh Allen has been picked. Chris Carson, someone I had on my fantasy team last year when he was healthy. A great fantasy value. I mean, he definitely helped in the latter half of the year, helped push me into the playoffs. So, big fan of what Chris Carson can do and his value here. And yes, now that we're seeing this run on receivers and running backs, I would actually, even though I have 3 running backs, I would still consider drafting Chris Carson. 2 picks until my turn. So Lamar is kind of hanging around. So, okay, looks like I'm going to be able to select a quarterback, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. Go to move my face out of my queue. So, as much as I like that value in Chris Carson, who might get picked right here, don't necessarily see the same value in DeAndre Swift or Darrell Henderson. So for myself personally, I'm just eyeing these two quarterbacks because I do see a lot more value. And I am very, very happy with these first three running backs I got. And I am interested to see who did they draft? Chris Carson. So that actually kind of takes some weight off my shoulders because I would definitely be stuck in a little bit of a debate. Now, when it comes to Lamar versus Kyler, very, very similar fantasy value this year. All right, if you're looking at last year's stats, but I'm going to go with Lamar. But if I ended up with Kyler there, I'd be just as happy. So to start off our team, we've got Lamar Jackson and those three running backs. At this point, I'm going to start looking at receivers as well. And as far as my queue goes, I'm kind of just adding everybody and anybody that I like. So I'm going to go ahead and start some of these later receivers that I really like as well. I do just want to emphasize I think there is a lot of value, a lot of saturation at the receiver position. And I don't think there's necessarily any reason to panic. I think that there's going to be a lot of receivers in some of these late rounds that still present a lot of value. So just went ahead and marked a couple of running backs that I see with a lot of upside. I do see that at some point Josh Jacobs, yeah, pretty recently got picked. Josh Jacobs is someone I like where you can draft him. Someone that I kind of probably would have considered up there with Chris Carson if those two quarterbacks weren't available. So let's just kind of recap here. Since I picked, we've got Tyler Lockett off the board, Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, and DJ Moore. So those receivers are continuing to get snagged up. Little worrisome for myself as we see Darrell Henderson get picked. At this point, I'm just going to probably take the best receiver. Although I just said not to panic about receivers, you still need them, right? I would have loved Adam Thielen on this team with what he can do in the red zone. Took a while for the next quarterback to be taken. Kyler Murray going round 5, number 51 overall. Brandon Ayuk is an interesting pick this year, in my opinion. I'm still looking at TJ Hawkinson as a potential player who can kind of change things up for my team with that value. But I'll tell you, so Yahoo's got Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews under TJ Hawkinson. And you will see some draft, boards out there where Mark Andrews is above Kyle Pitts and TJ Hawkinson. But personally, I actually like TJ Hawkinson and Mark Andrews pretty equally. Considering that I do have Lamar on this team, it would be interesting to draft both of those Ravens. And now I can't. Mark Andrews just got picked. Not surprised that he went before TJ Hawkinson and Kyle Pitts, like I said. So let's see. I'm definitely going to be targeting a receiver here. Well, maybe not. I like a lot of the players that are on the board. So I think what I'm going to do, who just got picked is what I want to know. Oh, interesting pick, Trey Sermon. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and just solidify that tight end position and kind of add that kind of elite value at another position. I do think TJ Hawkinson is going to have a great year. So right now, I think I've solidified my quarterback position, solidified my tight end position. I have 3 very solid running backs. So now the goal just kind of becomes select 2 receivers who are going to play well this year, and from there, as many players with upside, mainly at the running back position, but as many players in general with upside. So this is where you're really going to select the core of your team. This is where things get nitty gritty as well. This is where things get just a little bit scary if you don't make the right moves. These are the rounds, that kind of solidify your team and can either make or break your team. So right here, yeah, I really like the value of Kareem Hunt. I'm a little hesitant on Travis Etienne. I'm kind of still on the fence with this Jacksonville Jaguars running back room, But I will say I have been drafting James Robinson in a lot of leagues, or excuse me, in a lot of mock drafts. I really like the value that where you can get him. And let's see. So Kyle Pitts was drafted right after Hawkinson. So I won't be surprised if we start to see a lot of quarterbacks and a lot of tight ends taken. And that would kind of help this team that we're building here in terms that we need a receiver. Once again, I would just emphasize don't panic about drafting receivers too early. I mean, look at a lot of these guys: Juju Smith-Schuster, Robbie Anderson, Chase Claypool, even Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, who we know is going to miss game one, Jarvis Landry. I mean, and there's some super late round receivers that I think hold a lot of value. I did do a video on that, which I'll link down below. And I'm actually relatively tempted to take Kenny Galladay as well here. But I just don't really like that Giants offense. I'm actually very tempted to take Chase Edmonds as well. See a lot of good players still on the board. A lot of players. Justin Herbert's there. Tyler Higbee got picked pretty early. Russell Wilson's off the board as well. So I'm going to see. I'm in a little bit of a difficult position here. Do I take a player with upside or do I go ahead and solidify my receiver position? And I'm going to take Jamar Chase, who is kind of going to accomplish both of those things: a player with a lot of upside, but a player that will hopefully solidify that receiver position as well. So from here on out, my next two targets are going to be Chase Edmonds and James Robinson, who I will be relatively lucky if I get either of them. And from there, I will need to start re-solidifying this receiver position. And yeah, it looks like this draft did have mainly people who were live drafting. We still got a good amount, but now we do have some people who have seemed to leave. So when that starts to happen, you do see, the most prevalent players just go right off the board. Damian Harris is a very interesting fantasy value this year. He could very well be the number one running back in New England, and you can get him very, very late. So let's see. Chase Edmonds off the board. Javonte Williams, in my opinion, a very risky pick, but is at a pretty good value in round 6. Someone who you can definitely take a chance on late in your draft. Let's see. It says it's on auto pick, but it is taking quite some time. Let's see. Damian Harris off the board. I don't think that James Robinson is going to fall, but if he does, that would definitely be my pick right here. Considering that I probably will not get him, I'm going to start eyeing both Robbie Anderson and Chase Claypool. Although I do really like the fantasy value of Melvin Gordon this late, who there are some reports coming out, maybe the number one running back going into the season this year for the Denver Broncos, which is kind of it's a scary running back room, but we are, like I said, looking for running backs with upside at this point. Sorry, I am just moving my face all over the place. Still a lot of good names that I would love to add to this roster, but I do feel like I need to kind of solidify that receiver position as well. And James Robinson is off the board. I will say that is who I really wanted, but nevertheless, I believe it is time to select a receiver. 4 picks until my turn. 2 auto drafters, apparently, who are the computer is taking their time. And then we've got Michael and John with an H. I'm John with no H. Do not trust those Johns with an H. They will steal the fantasy player that you want right before you select in mock drafts. So let's see here. Aaron Rodgers off the board. Pretty close to Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts. Robbie Anderson off the board. Looks like Chase Claypool is probably going to be my main target here. You could argue for Juju as well, but considering that I'm drafting for a PPR league. I actually, Chase Claypool and Juju had very, very similar stats last year, but I would go Chase Claypool just with his ability to stretch the field. Anytime it says next queued player right after its return to draft, it also looks like that player just got drafted and it freaks me out. Debo Samuel, interesting pick. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll with Chase Claypool. But honestly, I think Juju would have been a good pick. I think Melvin Gordon or Ronald Jones shows a lot of upside. Those are probably my next two targeted players. So at this point, you're just kind of going down the list, right? Anyone you think that has high value at positions that you need. Let go and tag Zach Moss, Gus Edwards, James Conner, my boy Robert Tunyon, Jamal Williams, some good value in my opinion. Jarvis Landry, great value. I am tagging Devin Singletary just based off of the fact that he is on the Bills offense, and we don't necessarily know how that backfield is going to turn out. When you look at some of these receivers that I've started to tag here, there is so much value late in late rounds at the receiver position, and some of these tight ends that I mean, if you're playing in a league like this roster is set up, where you have two tight ends and you're able to flex a second one. If you could grab, a TJ Hawkinson early and then someone like Robert Tonyan late or Mike Gesicki late, that adds a lot of value to your team as well. Sorry, I'm kind of moving my face all over the place here, but just trying to kind of get a full evaluation. So, like I said, at this point, you're just going for upside, right? And for me specifically, it's going to be at the running back and the receiver position. So I'm really liking the fact that my turn is next. And it's kind of a toss up between these two guys for me, right? I wish that they didn't show the projected, amount. I just, it always throws me off when 2020 is right under it. It's not highlighted. But you look at these two guys, relatively similar years last year, but I'm going to go ahead and snag Ronald Jones. And I'm going to hope and pray that Melvin Gordon falls because I'd love to add him to this roster as well. So far we've got Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase and Chase Claypool. Hard to say back to back, but those are my two receivers. We've got our boy Zeke, we've got Najee Harris, TJ Hawkinson, David Montgomery, and it looks like got quite a few bench spots to fill with Ronald Jones being our first player on the bench. So let's kind of see what's going on. At this point, it's I don't know if this run on defenses is realistic. It depends on, your league better than I do. Sometimes this definitely happens, but for some leagues, this doesn't happen till very, very late. So the same with kickers. Obviously, like I said, slightly unrealistic now that we're looking at a lot of teams on auto draft, but it kind of provides a nice cushion in mock drafts for a player like Melvin Gordon to fall to you. So just keep that in mind. Unfortunately, I was trying to get in a draft with as many real people as possible. It started out that way, gave us a really good picture of the beginning of the draft and, some unexpected things as well, like Travis Kelce going number 5 overall. Let's kind of go down there and recap real quick. Kind of interesting, right after those top 4. I mean, Nick Chubb going number 6, Tyreek Hill being selected before some of these running backs, Stephon Diggs going far before Devontae Adams. Patrick Mahomes at 20, I think, is pretty realistic. But I will not be surprised in some leagues if you have Patrick Mahomes going in the first round. It seems that every year somebody panics and says, you know what? I'm just going to pick a quarterback in round 1. Maybe not for all leagues, but in some of the leagues I play in, that definitely happens. Yeah, getting a little bit run on kickers. I don't think this will happen so early in a lot of people's drafts. Let's see, we got Joe Burrow off the board in the middle there too. Joe Burrow, I think, is someone with a lot of good fantasy value where you can select him as well. And it looks like things are gonna work out for us. Still got 5 picks, but even if Melvin Gordon gets selected, I am very big on Kenyon Drake this year. I'm kind of hoping in this mock draft that I can get Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake. I would be really happy with that. Mike Gesicki going off the board, someone who I had tagged, and another kicker. I think Mike Gesicki is a great value, even as a number one tight end and round 9, pick 99. That is, in my opinion, great value. And that reminds me, did Tanyan get picked? Because that is someone at this point that I would start looking at. He's up there, yeah. That's a hard decision, right? Because we're kind of, looking between Melvin Gordon, who I've been talking up, and Robert Tanyan, who's the top tight end on the board. And honestly, with how many running backs with upside I see, if Tanyan doesn't get picked here, I might select him. I love having two solid tight ends on my roster. And like I said, especially in a league where you can flex a tight end, and never mind. What did I tell you about Johns with H's? They will select the player that you want before you can select them in mock drafts. So, Tanyan is off the board. Let's go ahead and see what other tight ends are available, though. Adam Trotman, my co-host Steven's favorite tight end in the league. I'll tell you who I like here. I like Jared Cook with my final pick of the night. Drafting him very, very late. I like him more than all of these tight ends. Maybe in a PPR league, you can argue for Evan Ingram, but he is probably going to score like -1 touchdowns this year. And then Gronk, okay value if you really want to add someone and you don't see a lot of value uh, hanging around. He is someone, I mean, he had a pretty decent year last year. So I always have to check this. I've got 4 bench players left because I will not pick a kicker or defense. And, I would even, sometimes I consider selecting a extra bench player and leaving off a kicker or defense just to snag as many upside players as I can. And then, eventually dropping whoever I like the least as the season draws closer because I personally like to I like to stream a defense each week. And last year, that gave me the Rams on my team, as well as the Dolphins. And I did not draft. I have no idea who I drafted last year on as far as defense goes. So it can definitely work out. Let's see who got picked here. So I can't really go wrong with either of these receivers, right? But I think there's enough value in late rounds that I'm going to take the upside pick here with Kenyon Drake. Probably someone out there who disagrees with, I'm pretty big on Kenyon Drake. I know that Josh Jacobs is there. I'm also pretty big on Josh Jacobs. But I think it's a very good handcuff situation, and it provides a lot of upside as well. Someone that I'm targeting very heavy right now, just to give you guys a look at my bench with 3 running backs with hey, and I'll admit it, right? There's some boomer bust potential for all 3 of these guys, but I'll take the bust, or excuse me, I'll take the boom. I'll take that upside all day, just because we solidified that running back position very early, and I believe in my 3 starting running backs. I'll let that upside ride the bench all season long. So at this point, I am starting to look at my receivers and I'm not worried. I like both of these guys. I drafted them, right? But you do want to kind of solidify that position. And Michael Thomas, I think, is someone who can really help, as well as, I'm going to go and shut that down, as well as Antonio Brown. Now, I don't like AB as much in standard scoring leagues, but as far as PPR, half PPR league goes, I think he provides a lot of upside. And let's go ahead. I'm going to put do, 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 do. So many good receivers in my opinion left on the board. I mean, I understand what a number one receiver can do for your team. I snagged Stephon Diggs last year as like my fifth player on my roster, and I mean, it did so much for my fantasy team. But um, there's just so much depth at the position. Mike Williams is someone I am huge on going into this year. And let's see, after I picked Kenyon Drake, we have a couple more defenses, kickers, and I would argue some running backs with upside. Houston's going to be probably the worst team in the league, but someone's going to run the ball there, and they have like 17 running backs. But David Johnson might be the number one running back. We did a podcast on that division, the AFC South, which I can link down below as well. Very crowded running back room. Maybe the most worrisome running back room in the league, as we see some more, handcuff situations going off the board. AJ Dillon, I think in round 11, that's a good value. And as well as for Will Fuller, I think that's a very good value getting him in round 11. Jerry Jeudy is someone who, at this point in the draft, I would definitely consider drafting. Curtis Samuel, let's see. For some reason showing me, well, actually had some pretty decent numbers in the rushing department, but okay value at this point. Not someone I'm huge on. I'd say that I think Jamal Williams has more value at this point, but I'll tell you, I do like Jarvis Landry. I do think he's going to have a good year as a number two receiver on that Browns team, who I think is going to take a step in the right direction this year, or a bigger step in the right direction this year. So at this point, you're just going to kind of be tossing and turning, asking yourself who provides the most upside. And for me, it's going to be Michael Thomas. It might be a little bit of a reach in some people's opinion here, but I just want to go ahead and snag him up because I want him on my team. I do think that there's a lot of concern for Michael Thomas this year, and it's understandable. I had him in one of my leagues last year, and he really, really hurt me because I got him in the first round, and he barely played. He had off the field issues, he had injury issues, but I'll take the upside for my bench all day. I need another receiver on this team because if Jamar Chase doesn't produce like we want him to, Chase Claypool doesn't go back to his rookie form. Kind of, he did fall off in the second half of the season last year. The Steelers have a relatively easy schedule this year, so I'm, not too worried about that. Definitely a lot of targets in that Steelers offense as well. But we do need to kind of, reassure ourselves that our wide receivers aren't going to break us. So I do like Jarvis Landry here, but just the way I draft, I do kind of want either a tight end or running back. Hey, we went early on tight end, so we're just going to kind of ride it out with TJ Hawkinson. We didn't get, if I had the chance to get Tanya, and I would have taken him. I would have loved to have those two, but I don't necessarily see the same value. Really would have liked Jamal Williams here, and I just don't feel that crazy about Devin Singletary. So at this point, you're just kind of looking at all positions, and I don't see anyone who is really coming, and I'm just going to panic, and I'm going to pick AB. I was going to say anyone coming to fruition there, so oops, took away my cue there. But AB, I do think in terms of PPR is going to have a good year. A lot of upside. I think that's a good pair with Michael Thomas on the bench, and I'm not too disappointed in this bench. I can tell you my last target is definitely going to be Mike Williams. I do think he provides the most upside, and I think it kind of worked out perfectly. You've got three running backs with upside, and we're hopefully going to have three receivers with upside. It is possible someone snags Mike Williams. When I switched the quarterback position on my last pick there, I was seeing for any reason if Ryan Tannehill was still lingering around. I think he is the perfect number two quarterback to have, but I'll tell you, I almost picked Fitzpatrick on that last selection. I do think he is going to have a pretty good year, and I think that that Fitz magic is going to survive with the Washington football team as well. So, but hey, we do have Lamar Jackson on this team. Whenever his bye week comes in week 8, it looks like I will stream somebody. That's kind of my attitude. My attitude used to be draft a quarterback very late, very, very late, and when they're on bye week stream. So this year I am targeting a quarterback a little bit early, not too early, but after I have three running backs that I like I said, if that kind of top tier quarterback group is hanging around and I can get a guy like Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, maybe a Dak Prescott or a Russell Wilson, I would consider, but especially those two, Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray, with their rushing upside, are two guys that I want on my team. So I'm very happy actually overall with this roster. We have a solid tight end one, a solid quarterback one, and then three really good running backs in my opinion. I know there's a kind of a question mark with Najee Harris. A lot of people hating on Montgomery, but I would consider him a running back one who I think has a ton of upside. And then, like I said, three running backs, kind of boomer bust situation there. And then hopefully three receivers if Jonathan H doesn't pick my guy. Who did he pick? Kind of my enemy. Tari Cohen, I think, is a good value there where he got him. So good for you, Jonathan H, who's now in auto draft. I'm going to stag my guy, Mike Williams. So at this point, like I said, if I see someone with enough value, I will forfeit either a kicker or defense. And I actually like some of the people on the board still, including my guy Corey Davis, who I think could very well be the number one receiver, if not the number two receiver, in what will probably be a very bad New York Jets offense, but still an offense nonetheless. I would definitely consider Cole Beasley at this point in the draft if it weren't for the fact that he may not play this year. As we get closer to the season, we will kind of see how his offseason situation, uh, if it turns around, if he does play. And if he does, he's a great value. Great slot receiver, great part of that Bills offense. Had an awesome year last year. Very, very, very underrated in PPR leagues. So this point in the draft, I think Rob is, or excuse me, Rob, like I know him. I think Gronk is a great value. See what he did last year. Still at 623 receiving yards and 7 scores. So not going to be the most consistent tight end, but uh, still of good value at this point in the draft. And it is now my turn to draft. So yeah, I mean, why not? Why not just pick Cole Beasley? Or excuse me. I'm actually going to select Corey Davis, not Cole Beasley. So, like I said, you can always drop these guys, and I didn't even check, but I doubt that there's a defense that's really going to be. Holy crap, Miami was available. Okay, so in real life, where I actually checked what defenses were available, I would pick Miami there. But even then, I will probably end up just forfeiting a kicker, especially since everyone's on auto draft except for Josh. Shout out to you, Josh. You look at a lot of these kickers aren't even going to be selected, and they have pretty equal value. And it seems that once again, you can always stream a kicker. I think last year I got Younghoe Koo off this, off the waiver wire, as well as the Bills kicker. Don't remember his name off top of my head. He did get selected pretty early on. Had a great year, right? But anyways, point is, and I mean, think about the Colts kicker last year. No one drafted him, right? And he was a freaking beast. So don't stress about kickers, man. Don't go out there and select a kicker early. I know most people watching this aren't planning on it, but I will happily forfeit a kicker. And I can't believe I did not check the defenses because Miami really, really helped my team last year. I do think, there's potential for them to fall off just a little bit this year. Um, but anyways, I do want to kind of just go over before this draft ends the wide receiver position and who's left just to show some more, depth. I think Devontae Parker, if he's healthy, will actually have a good year. Maybe not the best fantasy year, but there's still some value there. Someone's got to catch some balls in Indianapolis, whether Carson Wentz is healthy or not. And Pittman kind of looks to be like the number one guy after T.Y. Hilton. So I guess there's some value there. I think Darnell Mooney has a lot of good value, especially this late. Same with Cole Beasley, who we talked about. Same with Jamison Crowder, who could be your number one. You could debate receiver in New York, or maybe, or if not the number two. And then we do have Ty. Man, these Colts receivers are going late. I mean, someone's got to be the number one receiver there, right? I'm not huge on Rashad Bateman, but I think as we get closer to the season, we'll see. Uh, you know, oh man, Miami got picked. How he's going to be utilized maybe a little bit better. And see, I mean, I like some of these defenses. Well, I should just pick the worst defense. But, honestly, I would probably pick another skill position player because, at that point you've solidified, that they're on your squad. I would actually, as much as I like Jonathan Taylor, I think there's so much upside for Marlon Mack at this point in the draft that, as well as Jared Cook. Yeah, and I mean, who's it going to hurt, right? Oh, you can only draft. You can't draft more than six running backs according to Yahoo Fantasy. So, and I think that means I can't draft any more receivers. So we'll just go ahead and we will select Philly for my good friend Ben. Fly Eagles fly. So let's see if I can get rid of this queue, and we'll just quickly will stop me from rambling about wide receivers late in the draft. I think you can see there's a lot of value there. None of these guys are Devontae Adams or Stephon Diggs, but they're going to get the job done, especially when you've solidified your team with a great quarterback like Lamar Jackson, a great tight end, in my opinion, like TJ Hawkinson, and three stud running backs. I actually really, really like this team. Ton of upside at the running back position on the bench, as well as a ton of good value at the receiver position on the bench with my extra selection of Corey Davis as well. So there you have it. That was a PPR mock draft, a 12-man league. Like I said, load up at the running back position, snag a QB early. If it comes to you, snag a good tight end early. If you're not picking a tight end right there, then you are probably going to go ahead and select a receiver. But I am actually still happy with both these receivers in my starting lineup. And like I said, really, really happy with this bench. And that bench is what's going to make or break you. Don't forget that we had a little bit of, a non-realistic run on QBs, non-realistic run on defenses and kickers. So realistically, one of these players may not be on this team if we had less bots drafting. But regardless, I think I ended up with a team that I liked. So, with that being said, thank you for joining our first mock draft of the year. August 1st, like I said, it is the month of fantasy football. So get excited, my friends. Get excited, my fantasy people. And remember, you saw it here on the catch. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash the like button if this was helpful to you in any way. And if you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and hit that sub button down below. We are going to go ahead and get out of here. Goodbye.